Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the 3 new great ways to monitor your process webinar. During the next 45 minutes or so, we will take a look at our new loop power panel meter that includes some pretty impressive features. We will take a look at our large outdoor displays and controllers. And finally, we will see what's new in the wireless system that can turn any 4 to 20 milliamp signal into a wireless one. My name is Devin Gates, and I am joined today with Joe Ryan, and we will be your presenters. Before we officially begin, I'd like to mention that all of the attendees are on mute, so we will not be able to hear you. However, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to submit them using the chat box at the lower left hand of your screen, and we will answer them periodically throughout the presentation. Also, the presentation is also being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel for future viewing. Of course, you will receive an email at the conclusion of this presentation that will include links to both the presentation and the products that we will be learning about today. With all that being said, we're going to actually ask you folks some questions. The first question we are going to ask is, where are you located? Whether that's the Eastern U.S., Central, Western, Canada, or even somewhere overseas. And it looks like most of you are on the East Coast. The second question I want to ask you is, what is your industry? Are you a distributor, public utility, petrochemical, HVAC? And it looks like a majority of you folks are in the industrial distributor section. So with all that being said, Joe, can you take us into what we're going to be learning about today?
I'd be happy to. Thank you for the introduction, Devin. So what we're going to be looking at today is 3 great new ways to monitor your process using new products available from Precision Digital. So the first thing we're going to look at is our new Loop Leader series, Loop Power Meters. And those of you familiar with the existing Loop Leader products will notice that these do look very different. So what are these new panel meters? Well, they are 2-wire loop power meters. That means they get all of their power that they need to run off the 4 to 20 milliamp, which is what they're also reading. They do that with a 1.5 voltage drop on the line, or if you use the backlight, you get a 4.5 volt drop. Most of these systems are going to be run on 24 volt power supplies, so even if you've got a device that takes 18 volts, say a 2-wire level transmitter, you've still got plenty of voltage to work with to get your loop leader display to turn on. We're very happy with the fact that these have a minus 40 to 75 degrees C operating temperature range. So those of you who may be in colder climates, these will work down to minus 40. And I don't just mean that the outputs and alarms will work. I mean the display will continue to change and be readable all the way down to minus 40. There's both a process meter and a flow rate totalizer series in the line. So if you're measuring level or you just need volume, you can certainly do that with the process meter. If you want to actually have a flow rate and a total potentially displayed at the same time, then you can do that as well. There's various information-packed display types, which we'll take a look at in a minute. There are different ways you can choose to display your data. They've got alarms, features for pump control and retransmission. And they have automatic unit conversions for volume, height, temperature, pressure, weight, and rate. And what we mean by that is that you can very easily switch between, say, gallons and liters without having to do any kind of special conversion. So if you happen to know that you've got a flow device that's measuring out in gallons per minute and you really want to display that as liters per hour, you can do that without having to do any math. You can enter in the numbers you've got for gallons per minute, or the number you've got, for example, in feet, and then you can decide to display it as some other unit, and the meter will do all the math for you. So that makes installation even easier. And while we do not have hazardous area approvals for this product, we are in the process of getting them. So hopefully it won't be too long until you start seeing these new Loop Leader products surface with intrinsically safe and non-incentive approvals. So what are the standard features of this new 2-wire meter? Well, this is a completely redesigned meter. It doesn't share really any of the the software or the hardware of the previous loop leader models, for those of you who are familiar with them. And so it's good to take a look at those standard features and really understand what you're getting. And these are really the 4 key facts here. So you've got 2 open collector outputs that come standard. Those are just digital outputs or transistor outputs that you'd send to a PLC or some other digital input device to read an alarm state. You've got a 2-color backlight that comes standard. Now we say 2-color because by default it's usually white. That would be the backlight you're just using during normal operation. But in an alarm state, you can have the backlight turn red. So if you really want somebody to notice this, you can go from general, just white backlight to make it legible, to a whole screen red backlight that's really going to draw someone's attention. You've got the 2-line display we saw a minute ago, which is great for displaying a process variable and a unit below it or a tag. Or if you're doing rate and total, it can show you the rate and the total simultaneously and cycle with the units and tags. And we've got that 1.5 voltage drop without 1.5 volt drop without the backlight, which is great for any 2-wire system because voltage drop is always the enemy. And at 1.5 volts, you're not going to have any problem getting this to run with your other loop-powered devices. A few optional features we have available are 2 solid-state relays. We've never before offered that on a loop-powered device, and so we're very happy to have real relays on this loop-powered device. So you can get some significant power through those, and those are actually the relays that you would use for pump control when we talk about the pump control features a little bit later. This actually has a lot of pump control features we're really proud of. You can get a passive 4 to 20 milliamp analog output. So you could use this as a loop isolator with a separate power supply, or retransmit at a different scale, your 4 to 20 signal, back to the control room. It's available with a display that shows a 20-segment bar graph, as we'll see on the next slide. And it has 3 different display types, some of which have that bar graph on them, which we'll take a look at right now. And these are what your 3 display types of this 6600 series loop leader looks like. On the left there, you've got your decimal displays. That's just 5 digits on the top, 7 digits on the bottom. And by the way, you'll notice those 7 digits on the bottom are 14-segment characters. So you can spell out words like gallons, and you'll notice that that G has the little notch there so that you can tell that we're talking about a G. And the N even looks better, although I suppose you could, in theory, make lowercase n's with 7 segments. It wouldn't be very legible. So we're really happy to see that these 14-segment characters are letting us spell out all kinds of units and tags that people want to in the field. In the middle, you've got the feet and inches displays. And we call them feet and inches displays because obviously they display feet and inches. And that gives you, in this case, you've got 19 feet, 10 inches, and 12/16 of an inch. So you've got feet, you've got inches, and you've got an optional fraction of an inch. Again, on the bottom, you've got your characters to display whatever kind of unit or tag you may like. In fact, you can even dual scale the meter so that you can have volume on the bottom, feet and inches on the top, and as you can see over here on the right, you've got a bar graph with a percentage. So you can use these feet and inches meters for tank monitoring or for sump monitoring and to be displaying it with 4 different versions of the same 4 to 20 milliamp process variable. And then on the right, we have our decimal and bar graph display, which is essentially the same display that you're getting on the left. But if you like the idea of the bar graph, you like the idea of having the percentage, you want to do, for example, what they're showing here, and you want to be able to see a rate, for example, on the top, perhaps your total on the bottom, but you also want to have a bar graph and a percentage to show you how that flow rate or how that pump is working. You can do all of that off that same 4 to 20 milliamp signal and display it in those 4 different ways on the front. So this is a really variable meter that can go into a lot of different applications. And the different display types are just a choice of how you want to have that data displayed. So how do all those work into model numbers, et cetera? Well, the basic meter in this new loop leader series is our PD 6600 process meter. That gets you all your standard features like your loop-powered backlight, your alphanumeric tag names, et cetera, as we talked about. It gives you your options, like your 2 solid-state relays, and your 4 to 20 milliamp output option. And you get all of those firmware or software features that I was talking about earlier. For example, we have timer functions for the open collector and the relay outputs, if you just want to have a timed pulse output. These can do relay pump alternation for level control. If you want to distribute your load on pumps that are doing level control across multiple pumps, much like our other panel meters, these will do that pump alternation. What these do that none of our other products do is, in relation to those pumps, they will also store relay runtime and cycle count. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean if you're alternating pumps, you can see how long each one of your pumps has been on for and how many times it has been cycled on off. So if you have a regular maintenance plan, these will help you know when it's time for your pumps to be maintained. And we looked at the fact that you can get 20-segment bar graph options and the feet and inches display options. You'll note over there on the right we have applications, and these really can do just about anything for level, pump control, pressure, and eventually hazardous area applications. Moving on, we'll take a look at what the display of a 6600 series meter looks like up close. So these units have an IP65 front, so they're good for outdoor applications where they're going to get rained on or water somehow going to get at them. They have a 5-digit top display that's 0.7 inches tall, so it's very legible. And they've got that 8-character alphanumeric display on the bottom. You'll note that it says predefined or custom units, because you can use the custom units if you're entering in a number and you want to just see it in gallons and you want to use the unit conversions. But if you've got some strange unit that we don't know about, if you're trying to calculate total in terms of bottles or bins, you can certainly enter in custom units as well. It comes with the white/red LED backlight. In this case, we're showing it white. And you've got alarm and password indicators in the lower right of the display. We've got the buttons and function keys called out as well, because much like our ProView series, these have programmable function keys. And it has a new style of button that is extremely rugged. It's got a rubberized push button that comes through the front of the display that can really take some abuse and isn't going to break down in the field even under the harshest conditions or most abrasive gloves. Here we've got a zoom in of our feet and inches meter, which is very much similar, except now you'll see that you've got feet and inches designations on the top. They can go up to 999 feet and just about 1,000 feet. On the bottom, you can use that to show volume or percent, or you can again use predefined or custom units. And then you've got your percentage full and your 20-segment bar graph. So you could take your one 4 to 20 milliamp signal from a level transmitter, and you can show that data to someone 4 different ways: feet and inches, volume, percentage, and bar graph. Then we have our line of 6620 flow rate totalizers. These share a lot of similar features to the 6600s, but we add the rate totalizer features. So now you have the ability to totalize and to display the rate and total simultaneously. We have commas on the lower display, which make it very easy for you to understand what your total is, even if it's a lot of digits and it has a couple of decimal points. And there's a total, a grand total, and you can even make your grand total non-resettable if you don't want operators in the field being able to set that back to 0. You can get up to 8 digits of total and grand total using that 8-digit lower display. And like the other unit, you can get 2 solid-state relays or the 4 to 20 milliamp output as options, as well as the bar graph as an option. And this is what your rate totalizer might look like. In this case, they've got 5-digit rate displayed on the top, using 1 decimal point, though that's programmable. You've got your total or your grand total displayed on the bottom here, and you can see the commas in there. So it's very easy to understand that what we're talking about in this case is 15,516,624. I don't have to count from the right to the left trying to figure out where my decimal place may be. In this case, I don't have one, so it's pretty easy. But you can imagine if I added 1 or 2 decimal places, all of a sudden this number becomes unmanageable. Adding the commas clears that up for an operator. And again, you've got the ability to get that rate or total percentage and the bar graph on the right if you so choose. And here we've got what it looks like in an alarm state, where now we've got the red backlight, we've got the alarm indicator on in the lower right. But in addition to both of those things, you also have the ability to flash your top display to show that it's an alarm. And you can give a custom alarm message. So in this case, we just have it saying high alarm. But when it enters the alarm state, it could tell you what to do. It could tell you what to check. It could tell you if it's a high alarm, a low alarm, low flow, whatever 8-digit character message you want to display down there in the case of an alarm, you can do that. So let's talk about a couple of applications for these meters. Why would you want to use them? Well, obviously, anywhere you want to have a simple 2-wire display, that's easy. I think we all know that that would be a great opportunity for these. But they can do more than that. And so we're really going to focus on the applications that aren't quite what you usually think of a 4-to-20 loop-powered panel meter for. And in this case, we're going to look at pump alternation. So what we've got in this case is we've got our 2 solid-state relays, relays 1 and 2, being programmed for pump alternation. And what that means is that they're controlling those two relays are controlling a main pump and a backup pump. And every time it gets up to a certain drain level, it will alternate which pump turns on in order to drain the tank down. So you're going to split your load across those 2 pumps. You've also got 2 open collector outputs that you can use to control relays externally, usually an external solid-state relay, that would control high and low alarm buzzers. And this is also the first time a pump alternation product we've got can be based on level or time. So not only can it alternate every time a certain high level or low level is reached, but you could tell it that, well, after, let's say, 3 hours, I want to make sure that my pump switches no matter what, just to give that pump a rest. So you could set a time in there at which it will automatically switch pumps, even if it has not yet gone down below the reset point. And as I mentioned earlier, the meter can also display how long a pump has run for and how many times it's cycled, which helps greatly in plant maintenance programs. I have a plug in the lower left here for pumpcontrol.com. For those of you who do a lot of pump control applications, I would urge you to check it out. It's a website we have that is dedicated to using our products as pump controllers. And we've got videos up there that show you how they work. And we've got all of our products that make great pump controllers as well as displays up there with the features that are relevant for pump control. So if you do a lot with pumps, if you sell a lot of pump control applications, that may be a website you want to check out. And then if you find something you like there, it'll bring you back to our Precision Digital website for more information. This meter can also be programmed as a batch controller. We've got here just a simple graphic showing you what a 2-stage batching process would look like, where you've got a main valve and a trickle valve going through the flow meter to fill up your vessel. You've got 2 solid-state relays that can work on here for multi-stage batching. And because you've got 2 lines on the display, you can display batch total, rate, grand total, count, or preset, however you like. Normally, for example, you might show your total on the top as you batch and your preset on the bottom. It has a lot of our other batch controllers features built into this as well. So we have automatic overrun correction, so that if you find you overflow by a bit, it'll close the valves a little early next time to make sure that that's corrected in your process. You can do automatic or manual batch control. And you can count up or down with each batch. So depending on how your customers want to view it, you can program it either way. Most batches, of course, batch up as they get to, say, 55 gallons or 77,000 gallons or what have you. But if you wanted that to count down, you can certainly do that as well. Again, these are very versatile products. Open channel flow is another application that we've seen these used for. In this case, you'd be using a level transmitter to get a 4-to-20 milliamp signal out and then converting that over into a rate. And then in this case, we have displaying with rate and total up there. And you can use the programmable exponent feature, just punch in your information from your weirs and flumes. Round horizontal tank features, which you may be familiar with from our ProView line, have been added. So you can automatically calculate the volume in round horizontal tanks with flat ends and not have to do any kind of strapping table or use the 32-point linearization. You just enter in the diameter of your tank and the length in inches, and the results are automatically calculated for you. Then you can scale that to any engineering unit you want. And then the last application we'll look at here is differential pressure flow. So if you have a differential pressure transmitter, there's a square root function built in here, if your transmitter doesn't already have it, that'll linearize that signal. Lots of differential pressure transmitters will do that these days, but there are plenty that still don't. And if they don't, this will do that for you. So it's a great pairing it's a great pairing with any of those products. And then again, you can display your flow rate in engineering units. You can do total off of it, or you can display it as we have here with a percentage and a bar graph as well, and it will toggle back and forth showing you units and tags. And it looks like Devin has a question for you folks.
Well, I certainly do. The question I have for you folks today is, what is the level of experience with 4 to 20 milliamp current loops do you have? Are you an expert, novice, or do you not know anything at all about them? It looks like we have a wide range of answers, including some with no experience at all. And just to let you know, for the folks that aren't experts in 4 to 20 milliamp loops, we do have videos available on our YouTube channels that explain everything that you would need to know about that. But now let's take some questions from the audience, shall we? Joe, the first question we have is, will the new loop leader have approvals for hazardous areas?
I did briefly mention this at the beginning of the presentation that they do not have hazardous area approvals now, but we are in the process of acquiring them. Now, unfortunately, I can't give you a hard date at when we'll have those, but I can tell you that we're in that application process, and I would expect that these would be getting intrinsically safe and non-incentive approvals sometime in the upcoming several months. So I'd say probably sometime in Q2. Now, of course, the minute we have those, whether it's Q2, Q3, you will certainly hear about it from us. So hopefully all of you have signed up for our broadcast emails and you get our new product notifications. Keep an eye out for those if IS or non-incentive meters are something that you're interested in.
Perfect. Another question we have from the audience is the IP65 rating. Would that include watchdown for food and beverage industry?
Well, I think it probably would. The IP65 rating is essentially just an alternative to the NEMA 4 type of rating you might have seen, though they are different ratings. IP65 designates this as a dust-tight front with complete protection against dust and materials getting in through the front. And the 5 represents that it has protection against powerful water jets. Now, there's, of course, a standard, as you would imagine, as to what powerful or to what water jets means, but I think that you'd find that these would in fact be available for washdown food and bev. That having been said, we are in the process of getting NEMA 4 on these, or NEMA 4X actually. We don't yet have the testing done and in hand to prove that these are a NEMA 4X meter, but likely when we get the hazardous area approvals, you will also see that we will start calling on NEMA 4X at that time. So it's an IP65 product, which likely will be good enough for what your customers need. And I personally think that these will have no issue with NEMA 4 because we have, if anything, improved the gasketing over our other NEMA 4X products. We just aren't there yet to back that up with the certification.
Well said. Well, the last question we have about the loop meter is, why would I want to use a loop-powered meter with relays instead of one of your line-powered panel meters like the ProView?
Well, while the ProView can certainly do a lot of what the loop leader does, the loop leaders are a 2-wire loop-powered device. So they're great for conveniently locating somewhere where you don't have power. They're easier to install because they're just powered by the 4 to 20 milliamp loop. You don't have to run separate power to them. And there's a cost difference. Loop-powered meters use a different kind of power supply. They are generally a lower-cost device. So they are a simpler, lower-cost method that you can now get a lot of the similar features in that you'd find in a more expensive line-powered panel meter.
All right. I think that's all the questions we have for right now. And Joe, if you would, let's move on to the Helios.
Absolutely. So Helios is a very different product than the loop leader. The loop leader is a 2-wire 1/8 DIN panel meter. The Helios series is a large display meters and controllers line that is line powered based on our ProView series of panel meters and comes with an LED display. And right off the bat, you can see that this is a very different product. This product, as you can see compared to this tennis ball here, is big. It's roughly the size of a laptop if you were to stand it up. And it's visible from 100 feet away, if not greater. It's got sunlight readable LEDs on every model of it, so it's great for outdoor use. It's got onboard USB programming. So when you get this, we ship it with a USB cord, and you can just plug that right into your computer, and you can use that to program it. In fact, the software for the programming is on the meter itself, much like with our ProView series. So you don't even have to download anything. And it's got what we call a super luminous display. In fact, not only is this sunlight readable, but it is one of our brightest displays ever. And there are 2 types of displays in this line. There are your standard decimal display that's going to have 6 digits on the top and bottom lines, 7 segment LEDs. And then you've got your feet and inches display, like you see there on the right. So again, for level applications, you could choose to display it in, like we see here, 38 feet, 10 inches, and 15/16. Taking a look at the line as a whole, well, again, we hit up that super luminous sunbright display that's readable from 100 feet away. It is a field-mounted product in an IP65 enclosure. But what do we mean by field mount? We mean that it essentially comes in its own enclosure. As you can tell by looking at it, this does not install through the front panel of anything. It simply gets wall mounted or with a kit pipe mounted or screwed into a board or however you want to mount this. It essentially mounts just like an enclosure would if it was a standalone enclosure if it didn't have a meter built into it. So you can take this out of the shipping box and it's ready to go on the wall. There's inputs for 4 to 20 milliamps, 0 to 10 volts, pulse, thermocouple, RTDs, Modbus masters and slaves, digital inputs available to trigger various outcomes. There's strain gauge or millivolt input signals, load cell inputs. You name it, there's an input that is available in the Helios series, whatever your sensor may be. You've got that dual line 6-digit display. Although these are 1.8-inch digits on each one of those lines, so they are big. You've got the decimal feet and inches versions. Almost all of the Helios series come with a 24-volt transmitter power supply standard. The big advantage of that is that it saves you from having to worry about what you're going to do for a power supply. I can bring in 120 AC, 24 volts, however I'm going to power this, depending on my option. My model number. And we provide an isolated 24-volt transmitter output that will run your level transmitter or your flow transmitter. We even provide excitation currents for load cells, etc. You can get them with up to 4 relays and an isolated 4 to 20 milliamp output. And much like our ProView series, this is available with signal input conditioning for flow and level, much like the meter that we just looked at. And I mentioned that we have onboard MeterView Pro software and a USB port standard, as well as the cable shipping with the product. So what can these do? What applications does this apply to? Well, everything. Right? This can obviously apply to level for pump control, flow, batch control, temperature, Modbus, weighing systems, speed sensing, power monitoring, you name it. There are inputs and features for all of those. This gives you another look at that case. You can see the wall mounting holes at the top, those extra large 1.8-inch digits. We just discussed IP65, so it is a dust-tight enclosure that has protection against water jets. So it's fine if you're going to put it outdoors. It's got user configurable units or tags on the bottom, and alarm status indicators along the bottom just to get some of the tension if something's gone on. We're very proud of the onboard USB and programming software. This allows you to connect up to a PC directly with USB. In fact, the USB will even power on the display you don't even need to have this powered at your desk. You could literally just take it out of the box, plug the USB into your computer, and it will power on so that you can not only program it, but see the programming changes you're making. And the programming software is installed right on the meter. So when you plug this in, it will essentially act just like a USB storage device or a thumb drive, and it will ask if it can access it, and then you can install the meter software right off of the Helios, and then use it to program the Helios. So if you don't have an internet connection and you're just out there in the field with your laptop, you can still get the software in order to program it and do all your programming out there without the need for a separate power cord or even having Wi-Fi. So to say again, what Helios models are available, well, this is a series that we largely based on our ProView panel meter line. So much like our ProView panel meters, there are process meters available, feet and inches meters, flow rate totalizers, batch controllers, temperature input meters, strain gauge meters, high voltage and current input power meters, and Modbus input scanners, which act as Modbus masters for those of you who have Modbus devices or Modbus multivariable transmitters. So what might you use this for? Well, this might look very similar to that pump alternation graphic that we saw earlier, because once again, this makes a great pump controller, especially if it's being used on tanks where you want to have something really large you can view from far away in the yard. This has up to 4 relays, of course, so it can do up to 4 alternating pumps. Tank weighing is another great application for this. We mentioned we have a strain gauge input. So our PD2-6100, which is our strain gauge model number, works great with multiple load cells that might be being used to weigh a tank for level or volume. As a side note on the strain gauge meter, these are capable of taking in and averaging up to 12 strain gauges. So you can do all sorts of weighing and scale applications with them. And on this specific model, to give you an idea of how each one can be customized for the job, the PD6100 comes with a tear feature and a 0 button that you can access either inside the box itself or more likely by bringing that out to contacts on the front of an enclosure or a separate control station. These also have the round horizontal tank feature where you just have to enter in the diameter and length of your tank, and it does all the calculating for you as far as the volume is concerned. So you don't have to enter in those strapping tables. And these also have the open channel flow and differential pressure capabilities of the loop leader that we just looked at a few minutes ago. These also make great batch controllers. Again, as you can see, there aren't buttons on the very front of it, so you're probably going to control those via a separate control station. But we give you the ability to bring in the contacts for the buttons. And as these can have 4 relays, you can actually do up to 4 valves for batch control. So not only could you do the 2, like you see here, with a main and a trickle valve, you could, in theory, have up to 4 lines going. Once again, obviously the Helios is great for basic indication and alarming. You can see that just looking at it. But we wanted to take a chance to go over some of the more advanced applications that you might be able to use for this, or use this for. And it looks like, Devin, you've got another question for the audience.
I certainly do. The question is, what type of sensor do you sell the most of? Whether that's a flow meter, a level sensor, flow switches, thermocouples, what is it that you're out there promoting the most? Since the Helios can accept signals from all of those, we're just curious to know which ones would be most of interest to you.
And I'd just like to add thanks for, sorry about that, Devin. I was just going to say thanks for answering these questions, folks. It certainly helps us tailor the presentation as we go forward, so appreciate the input.
Absolutely. And it looks like our number one answer here are level transmitters. So hopefully the feet and inches displays really look interesting to you. And now we're going to field some questions from you folks here. So Joe, the first question we have is, can the Helios be installed outside and be okay with rain?
It can definitely be installed outside and be okay with rain. Again, you may be more familiar with the NEMA 4X ratings. It's not an exact science, but as IP65 products, these have proof against water jetting, which is essentially like a powerful water hose. And so they can resist that kind of pressure. It could certainly resist rain or standing water. As for the other problems of being installed outside, the main one being direct sunlight washing out your display, we have extremely bright LEDs on these, and you will not have a problem reading these outdoors. I can assure you of that. So yes, I'd be very confident that someone can install this outside and not have a problem.
Awesome. The other question we have about the Helios is, these seem an awful lot like the ProView panel meters and ProTech series that you folks have. Do they all have 24-volt power supplies in the Helios as well?
That's correct. As I mentioned earlier, most do. There is one specific Modbus scanner that doesn't have one standard. But they are all available with at least one 24-volt power supply, and almost every single one comes with one standard. You mentioned that they're similar to the ProView series. I know I may mention that several times. These have extremely similar model numbers and features to the ProView series or our PD8 series. So in fact, if you are familiar with the ProView series, and let's say you know our PD6000-6R7 product, you can get all of those same features and options in your PD2-6000-6H7 product. So you can take essentially the same model numbers that you know of the ProView series, and you get all those same features and functions in the Helios line just by adding a PD2 in front of it. So please go ahead and apply all that knowledge you know about our ProViews or our ProTex Max products and use those when talking to folks about the Helios line.
Awesome. And I think that's all the questions we have about the Helios so far. Why don't we take a look at what's up with the wireless stuff?
That sounds good to me. So what is the PDW Industrial Wireless System? Well, why don't we take a look at it? There are two types of product in this line, and the first one we're going to look at is our PDW30 point-to-point wireless bridge. As you can see here, it is actually 2 units. So if you order a PDW30, you get both sides of your wireless bridge. And the main reason to get this product is to replace 4 to 20 milliamp wires. That being said, there are inputs and outputs on both of these field units, each field unit being one of those blue enclosures with the antenna sticking out the top. It can transmit between those units up to 1 mile outdoor line of sight or 500 feet indoors. And while you may be able to squeeze a little extra range out of it, we really wanted these products to be easy for people to buy and install. And so we want to give you a range spec that we are very confident in. And so that is why we are going with 1 mile line of sight, 500-foot indoor range. As for what they can do for inputs and outputs, well, the inputs include a 4 to 20 milliamp, digital inputs, and RS-485, which can transmit Modbus. Coincidentally, those are also the outputs that each one of these units has. So you can bridge any 4 to 20 milliamp digital or 485 signal using a pair of these PDW30 units. The antenna comes attached, however, you can remove it and mount it remotely. And it uses a strong aluminum enclosure that includes flanges for wall or pipe mounting. There's a backlight standard on these, and you'll see a close-up in a minute, see the kind of display it has on there, but it's got a nice dot matrix display that's easy to read for setup. It's got onboard USB to program these units. Although, to be honest, the PDW30 is such a simple device, you probably won't even need the software. You could just take these out of the box, and if you don't have to change the network ID, because these are your only units on site, you could take them out of the box, wire them up to go, and you will have your wireless bridge up and running. You don't even need to program them in that case. But if you did, there is PDW Manager programming software available. If it gets too complicated, or if you want to do some really advanced programming, like you want to mask out frequencies and the frequency hopping spread spectrum signal. It's also worth noting these are a 900 megahertz proprietary wireless signal. So these are not They're not wireless HART or any kind of mesh network. This is a simple wireless bridge 900 megahertz product. And why would you use these? Well, these are great for level applications or flow, really anywhere you don't want to run your industrial signal wires. And much like the loop leaders, there are hazardous area approvals coming soon on this product. You may recognize this if you're familiar with our product line. It's the same kinds of enclosures that we have on our explosion-proof PD663 product. And so we are submitting for explosion-proof approvals. Here's a zoom in on one of the PDW30 field units. You can see that antenna with the 1/2-inch NPT conduit connection coming right out the top. The integrated mounting flanges are below that for wall or pipe mounting. If you remove the cover, you can access 4 push buttons and the USB connection. And we've got a 32-character dual-line alphanumeric display on there. In this case, it's showing you that this is the primary unit. There's a primary and a secondary in the pair. Your RSSI, which is essentially your signal strength indicator, is 10. It's a 0 to 10 scale, so that would be good. The RT just lets you know that it's transmitting back and forth. And if all of that means nothing to you, on the second line, you can see that it's telling you that your link is okay, meaning that your link between your 2 sides of this wireless bridge is communicating fine and you've got no problems. These are IP68 rated NEMA 4X aluminum enclosures. So they are extremely weather resistant and extremely rugged. And in fact, they're actually, they carry an explosion proof rating, although you cannot, although this particular product does not. So you can just imagine how rugged these enclosures are. For those of you who need something a little bit more complicated than just a wireless point-to-point bridge for a 1-signal wire, we have the PDW90 Point-to-Multipoint wireless system. And this is designed to replace multiple 4 to 20 milliamp wires or to extend out your RS485 bus. And you can actually connect up to 32 of those individual field units and bring all of those signals back to a single point base station. And so essentially what you do here is you've got this base station that you mount somewhere, and then you put these field units out at each one of your tanks or at each one of your flow meters or wherever your transmitters happen to be. And they transmit from your field units back to the base station. So I could bring in a 4 to 20 milliamp signal in the field, and it would transmit wirelessly to my base station, and then it would be a 4 to 20 milliamp out at the base station. And I can do that from each one of these field units, getting up to 32 field units. I, of course, talk about 4 to 20 milliamps, but in theory I could be using 45, and I could be transmitting my 45 signal to all of those field units. There's Modbus involved as well. If I wanted to bring a 4 to 20 into my field unit, but then take it out via Modbus at the base station, you can do a lot with these. And so we're going to essentially just cover the basics here. And if it's something that's of interest to you, I'd urge you to be in touch. So this is a point-to-multipoint signal wire replacement device. As I said, you can have 32 field points, that's your multipoint, and they all come back to that single base station point. So that is why it is point-to-multipoint. You can get up to 16 expansion modules. We'll see those in a moment, but that's the way you get your outputs or bring your inputs into your base station. And similarly, this is a 900 megahertz signal that is good for 1 mile line of sight outdoors or 500 feet indoors. There is PDW Manager programming software available for this PDW90 system. It is required for setup, but it is easy to use. And if you have questions about, well, how do I build one of these? How do I buy the parts? How do I know how many option cards I'm going to need or field units? Well, we've got a website here, predig.com/wireless, that will easily walk you through that setup and produce for you a bill of materials with list price. So if it gets a little confusing and you know you have a network you want to build, we've got a tool online to help you with that. Here's what that base station looks like inside the big enclosure. You've got an LCD on there that displays your current unit's field strength, or I'm sorry, your current field unit's signal strength. So it'll cycle through the different field units that you have connected to this and tell you how your signal strength is doing. You've got the USB port there for programming software. And you've got an antenna that you can install just with a simple drill anywhere you'd like around the edge of the case to make sure that it doesn't hit any other pipes or equipment you may have around it. And below that, you'll see that you have essentially what's a large motherboard that you plug in modules to. And so what's the deal with the modules, you may be asking? Well, let's take a look at that. So the idea with the base station is that you can take in or out of it whatever signals you want from your field units. And so I may have 8 field units, one at each of 8 tanks, and maybe I have a 4 to 20 in coming in at each one. Well, that means I'm probably going to want a 4 to 20 milliamp out for each one at my base station. So I would get some of these dual analog output modules that you see over here. If I wanted to bring inputs into my base station and get those out in the field, I use a dual analog input module. If I was using discrete I/O, like from float switches, for example, I could use my dual digital I/O module. Or I could go so far as to get relays if I want to use those float switches in the field to trigger some kind of remote pumps, or I just prefer to rely on relays. And then lastly, we do also have an accessory repeater if you need to get further than what our standard range spec is going to allow, or if you need to go around some kind of obstruction like a hill. Another useful part of this kit is our PDA 10 wireless survey tool. This is a great tool for distributors who might be showing this product to customers. And it can be used to demo the effectiveness of the PDW30 or the PDW90. Just like those products, it uses the same antenna technology to get 1 mile outdoor or 500-foot indoor range. And it includes a handheld unit and a target unit. The idea here is that you put one unit, your target unit, where you're going to install one of your field units. And then you simply walk away from it with the other unit, and it will give you your signal strength as you get more range and get more obstacles and it starts to go down. And so you can figure out exactly where you want to install these things to make sure that you get a good connection. If after the fact you find that you've got some kind of a problem with your signal, they can also be used for troubleshooting your system, which is another great feature of these. And so if that's something that's of interest to you, all of you industrial distributors out there, don't be afraid to get in touch with us, and we'll talk to you about what they are and what we can do to get them in your hands. So what does an application look like for these PDW units? Well, here we've got sort of your basic PDW30 application. This is just a simple example and shows you really what the PDW30 was designed to do, which is very easily replace wires. In this case, the customer's got a transmitter over there on the left, and the ideal end result is that they see that in their control room on the right. But for some reason, they don't want to run wires. Maybe they've got to go over a stream or a river. Maybe they don't want to have to trench their parking lot because they're coming from a tank that's not exactly close to their building the control room is in. But for whatever reason, they don't want to run wires all this distance. And so they decide to go with a PDW30. So the PDW30 comes with 2 field units, and each of those field units comes with a 4 to 20 milliamp input, 4 to 20 milliamp output, 4 digital I/O, and RS-485. So they're going to use one unit on the left here, and they'll use its analog input to bring in that 4 to 20 signal from the transmitter. And they'll use the analog output on the unit on the right to output that 4 to 20 signal to their control room. In this case, it looks like we have a ProView, but that could be any kind of display or PLC, chart recorders, data acquisition system, whatnot. And they're going to be able to cover the range of 500 feet indoors or 1 mile outdoor line of sight. What you don't see here for wires, I will mention as well, is these are 24-volt powered devices. These aren't battery powered. So you will need 24-volt power out in the field where you're putting one, as well as, in this case, in the control room where I'm going to put the other one. And this is really ideal for integrating the existing 4 to 20 milliamp systems. You know, this is the PDW30 is meant to be very simple. So you're not going to use a 30 to kit out your entire plant and every signal. For that, we've got the PDW90. But for someone who's just adding in a system or replacing some equipment and doesn't want to deal with the wires, the PDW30 is a very simple wire replacement device for them. Then you've got the PDW90, and now we're getting into a more complicated system. In this case, they've got 6 tanks. You can see those in the upper left here. And though we show them close together, let's assume for a minute those tanks really are not right on top of each other. Even if they are, they don't want to have to run wires all around their tank yard and up and down the tanks. So we're going to treat them as though they're individual locations. So in this case, they're going to have 6 of these tanks, and they've got power at all the tanks, so that's not a problem. They've got a transmitter at the tanks already, but boy, they don't want to have to run wiring. So they're going to put a field unit for the PDW-90 up the top of each of these tanks. So they're going to get 6 PDW-90 field units. And they're going to get 1 PDW-90 base station. So they'll be bringing their 4 to 20 milliamp signal from the transmitter into their field unit, essentially at each one of their tanks. And then they're going to use analog output cards at their base station to wirelessly transmit that 4 to 20 signal and then bring it back into the 4 to 20 milliamp world where they have, in this case, it looks like they've got an outdoor installation using the PDW-90 base station box and an enclosure holding 6 panel meters. So your analog signals are being wirelessly broadcast to the PDW-90 base station where they are turned back into wired signals. And that will hopefully give you at least a starting point about an understanding of where the PDW-30 fits, which is those simple wire replacement applications, versus where your PDW-90 point-to-multipoint system fits. And Devin, looks like you have a couple questions.
Yes, and as Joe had mentioned earlier, the wireless systems do not yet have any approvals for hazardous areas, but we'd like to know which ones you would like to see on these products. Which are the ones that your customers would be most happy with? And we have a few choices here. We have FM, UL, ATEX, IEC. And if you do happen to answer other, please type in what the other is on the question section. And it looks like overwhelmingly, more than half of the folks listening would like to see FM approvals on that. So we will obviously take that into consideration. I have one more final question for you folks. Would you like us to contact you or your office for additional training? Now that training could be on the products that we talked about today. It could be about products that we didn't talk about today. Just let us know. And it looks like overwhelmingly you folks answered no. So let's take a few questions from the audience in regard to the wireless. The first question is, will the wireless system have hazardous area approvals?
Yes, eventually it will, much like the loop leader we talked about earlier. We've got these products submitted for agency approvals. As you may have noticed, they do use an enclosure that is similar to the one that we use on other products we make that are explosion-proof. And so our eventual goal with this product line is to make those field units and the PDW-30 units explosion-proof products so that they can be installed in hazardous areas and then wirelessly transmit out of them. We're not there yet, though. We certainly hope to be. They have been submitted. And once again, if you're getting our emails and you're in touch with us and you see our mailers, et cetera, we will certainly inform you the moment we have those approvals available for explosion-proof wireless devices.
Awesome. And does the repeater extend the range beyond the 1 mile rating?
That's correct. So the point of the repeater is to give you a little extra range on this. It's not going to get you out to miles and miles, but essentially the repeater has the same range as the wireless system itself. So you've got 1 mile outdoors, 500 feet indoors. So if I needed to go, say, 1.5 miles, I could use a repeater to extend my wireless signal by giving me one extra jump there, one extra hop, and each one of those hops has that 1 mile radius around it where it works. So the repeater could be used to extend out that range. And I'll just give a second to see if we've got yep, I figured we might have a follow-up question there, which is, can you daisy chain repeaters? The answer to that is that yes, you can, but you need to understand that every repeater that you add is going to add some time delay. And so if you're doing a 4 to 20 milliamp signal, that's probably okay. But if you start getting into using Modbus through the RS-485 connections on all these devices, using it to wirelessly extend your 485 communication, then you might run into some timing issues, as each one of these repeaters is just another delay as it needs to wirelessly communicate back and forth between another device and sort of make each one of those hops. So I generally don't recommend that someone daisy chains them, though if you have a specific application in mind, we'd be certainly happy to talk to you about it.
And finally, what type of interferences would the customer be concerned about in regard to wireless devices indoors or outdoors?
Good question. Actually kind of a hard one to answer. So these are 900 megahertz devices, but even if you have other 900 megahertz signal devices in your plant, it uses its own frequency hopping spread spectrum sequencing, and it's got its own encryption. And so you're not going to see a whole bunch of interference, I don't think, with other wireless devices. Really, the most significant interference I've seen in field installations for wireless devices like these comes from physical objects more so than other signals flying around. So I'd be more concerned with, are you trying to go through metal walls, or do you have trucks that come and go in your area you're trying to transmit through, so you might get intermittent barriers? Or are you making sure that you install something somewhere where you consider what happens as, say, the seasons change? That was a great one I saw once, where someone installed a system and it worked great until the leaves came back on the trees, and all of a sudden they had a lot of interference. So I guess my recommendation there, the way I'd answer that question, is I would be less concerned with signal interference coming from devices like other electromagnetic interference, and I'd be more concerned with the physical objects that you've got between you and your, or between the two wireless points. And obviously the way you avoid that is by putting the device itself up high, get the antenna as high as you can, and trying to make sure that you're going through as wireless-friendly materials as you can. So you generally want to avoid, large rooms full of metal pumps and generators, or trying to transmit through a large metal tank. All of those things, which seem common sense, are essentially your best bet. But consider it. Make sure you take the time to think through, okay, is there anything that could be different now than or different in the future than when I'm making my installation now? And do the best you can to get a clear signal.
Awesome. And I think that's all we have for our questions today. And I would just like to thank all of you again for registering today and sticking around for the entire presentation. I hope that you are all as excited about the release of these new products as we are. As you can see, Precision Digital has made some great strides in pushing the limits of what a loop-powered device can do. Also, with the addition of the Helios, we have taken all the fantastic features of the familiar ProView series and packaged it into a brilliantly bright and large display. And then finally, of course, we have introduced a brand new wireless system that is low cost, easy to set up, and can turn practically any 4 to 20 milliamp application into a wireless one. As a reminder, this presentation will be available for later view on our YouTube channel. Also, if anyone from your company missed the live presentation, we will be doing a repeat session this Wednesday at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Again, you'll be receiving an email with a link to this presentation. You will also receive a brief survey in a few moments, so we would all appreciate it if you could take a few minutes and fill it out for us. And then one final note I have for you folks is that Precision Digital is offering some cash prizes for photographs of any of these new products installed in an active application. So if any of you have photos like this or are interested in making some easy money like that, please contact us and find out more about the sweepstakes. Again, I appreciate you all for joining us today, and I hope it was enjoyable.